Hello and welcome to the Retreadcast. On this week's show, the Retreadcast steps up a notch or two as we take a virtual trip around the world from the safety of our own homes. Firstly, we hop to Porto Alegre, Brazil, to have a chat with Leandro Rigon, Vipal's International Business Director, and later we're going to speak to David Stevens, Managing Director of TRIB in the USA. The retreading industry needs a voice in this time, and hopefully the Retreadcast is going to go some way to giving it. My name is Richard Wilson, contributor to Retreading Business, and I'm joined by David Wilson, publisher of Retreading Business. David, how are you today?
I'm very well, thank you, Richard. And I must say, I'm really looking forward to the second edition of the Retreadcast.
Yeah, I am too. I think we've got two very interesting interviewees today. But let's get straight down to it. Our first interview is with Leandro from Vipal. How was that interview and what did you get to discuss with him?
Well, over the years that I've been writing about the retreading industry, Vipal has grown from being primarily a South American operation to the company's current status as arguably the largest independent supplier of retreading materials and tyre repair products in the world. With that in mind, I wanted to drill down into the subject of Vipal's global branding strategy and find out how the company was approaching the task of making sure Vipal's brand perception globally was commensurate with the company's position in terms of importance within the global retreading sector.
Okay, well, that sounds like an interesting approach. And with Leandro's experience and breadth of knowledge of the retreading industry, I'm sure that's going to be quite an enlightening interview. So without any further ado, we've got that interview for you right now.
Leandro Rigon is the International Business Director at Vipal Rubber and has 15 years experience with the company in leading management positions, helping Vipal to become one of the most renowned tread rubber manufacturers in the world. We're very happy that he's able to join us today from Vipal's headquarters in Brazil. Leandro, thanks for joining the Retreadcast.
Hello, David. Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be speaking with you.
Excellent. Leandro, today I wanted to focus on some of the marketing challenges that you're currently facing in the global retread market, particularly with regards to the development of the Vipal brand. So let me begin with this one. Over the years, Vipal has gradually increased its strength as a supplier of tread rubber in many global regions to the point that the company can now arguably claim to be the largest tread rubber supplier to the retreading industry in the world. So how successful do you feel the company has been in translating that position into status as far as the position of the Vipal brand is concerned?
Well, Vipal Rubber was created not to be a small family business only. It was created with the will of being an option to the Brazilian market that in the time there was only imported products for tire repairs. That was the beginning of Vipal. And in this track, the company started to look into the retreading as well. So in the 80s, we started to work on the retreading materials when we launched the hot cure products of as camelbacks and rubber strips for the hot system. So that there was a little bit of the development of the company in that time, and then as there was only a few producers in Brazil and also in South America. It was a very fast development, and in the late 90s we started with our network, which is covering the Latin American market. So this was a big step for Vipal. Because in that time, most of the retreaders were related to a new tire company program or few independent suppliers, and that gave us good exposure to the market, and the program that we created here got a lot of engagement from the retreaders, because we were covering several brands of new tires in a guarantee, and a lot of training, a lot of work together with the customers, and then I think that was the best suitable program for the retreaders here in Latin America. And the company always looked into bringing technology, bringing a good product, and they always will to develop products which could bring a better performance, a better application performance into the factories, and good results on the roads. Was always the way that Vipal looked into its role in the business, right?
Yeah, so talking specifically about marketing measures, what particular activities and strategies have you been employing to develop and elevate the awareness and positioning of the Vipal brand globally, and how does that differ across different markets around the world?
Well, our strategies are very simple. We mean to offer a state-of-the-art product, a comprehensive cost, a great solution to the users, and be present, supportive every minute in something that guarantees our participation in the world's retreading activity. Since our goal is to provide solutions, building a relationship with our customers to understand their needs and their business model is a must. I think being in the retreading business, not simply being in a business to succeed, you're gonna need to be passionate about it and supporting the industry as a whole. So Vipal is very involved with the retreading associations around the world, and it is also very important to bring the awareness from the government to the end user, the retreading, a part of being a safe and economically viable, which is a key industry for the circular economy concept.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's talk specifically about the European market for the moment, which is a challenging market in many ways. In Europe, the two key premium brands aimed at independent retreaders have traditionally been TRIB and Managin. Both of these companies have long-standing histories in their segments and continue to draw strong brand loyalty. So what strategies are you following to continue to penetrate the market in Europe, and how, if you have to penetrate the market by becoming a second supplier to some retreaders, how do you elevate the perception of the Vipal brand in those circumstances?
Well, a premium brand is not easy to build, and it will be even more difficult to do in the markets you're not born into. Any market you step in, you have to prove your product is efficient, but you also have something more. You need something more to offer, and it is a different thing talking about a premium product and a premium brand. So a brand recognition starts on your product, but goes away further in the consumer's mind, as their concerns are not only if the product will perform, but they need to see that you support it, and whenever they need, you are there. So a part of the product, you also need a complete line, technical and commercial service as well. Of course, we acknowledge that in Europe, which is a mature and conservative market, the brands mentioned in this question are the most powerful names in the independent market. And we have a great respect to the work and product that they have. For us, competing with high standard products like this and others, of course, not mentioned, is a great experience and feed us with respect to what they have been doing all these years. So in regards to the retreaders' choices, our goal is to have more and more confidence from them as we advance in our hard work to have the product and the package they need to consider us as a premium brand as well, and maybe be among the first brands options in their minds. I think that being a foreigner supplier requires harder work than the locals, and it makes us even more focused and dedicated to our projects. You can see when looking into different markets and its characteristics, like in South America, we are the leader here and the first option in the independent retreaders. So being a premium brand has a lot to do with the market history and traditions, of course. The European brands here are hardly seen, but it doesn't get them out of the list of premium brands. So Brazil has a very developed retreading market, which nowadays the retreadability is around 1.3 retreads per new tire. It means that the market look for also premium products and a good option to the different levels of offers that the retailer should work in their market. We have a lot of fleets here in Brazil and South America that have a very, very specific controls on the performance of the tires, the costs, and and retread here is very important, as the Brazilian market is self-sufficient in tires from new to retreads. So we try to work with our customers and give to the end user the best option. We are very confident with our product. We know that by the tests and following our performance in different regions in the world, as we now are present in more than 90 countries, we can be very sure that our product is a premium product. But of course, the image of a foreigner takes longer to build, and I think that we are in the right path.
Okay, well, you just touched on some of the tire testing that you've been doing in different markets. And, clearly, marketing a brand to fleets in order to create demand is one of the ways of elevating a brand's position. So, tell me, how does your marketing approach in terms of fleets vary across the different markets in which you have a presence?
Yeah, I think that coming to the fleets, when they don't have the full picture based on the history of its operation, in order to make an assertive decision when acquiring these items. Sadly, purchasing decision comes on pricing, right? So we always try to show the cost benefit for the long haul. I mean, it's hard to. This work is very hard to do because sometimes fleets are looking to their pocket, to the moment, to the opportunities they have in the moment, and doesn't look at the future on how they can lower the cost of the tires. So, for example, we are investing in a tool that can work in this way to collect this information, and it can show the real picture of the cost of the tire and its performance in the operations. We presented the Vipal fleet in the show in Bologna last year, with the will to open this way with the fleets and try to build this concept of the cost benefit in through the time, right? Using the new tire and taking advantage of a good casing and going forward on the retreading, which can lower the cost significantly.
Absolutely. Leandro, it's been brilliant talking to you. Thank you very much for your time. I'm looking forward to catching up with you in person soon. And in the meantime, stay safe, and I look forward to seeing you at some point over the course of the next few months. Now, before we move on to our second interview of the day, we're going to rejoin Richard, who's going to tell us a few more things about the Recircle Awards.
Hi, David. That was a great little interview with Leandro, and also a seamless transition back to me and you.
Thanks, Richard. Well, you look rather like a football manager about to do a post-match interview. So tell me, what's all this about?
Yeah, unfortunately, I haven't become a football manager yet, but this background is all related to the Recircle Awards. And if some of our readers or viewers haven't seen the news yet, we recently launched a brand new awards concept for the Tyre Retreading and Recycling sectors, aptly named the Recircle Awards. Now, we'll be releasing some news shortly on the awards categories we're expecting to give out next year, as well as making a presentation regarding the launch of the Recircle Awards website. But this background is just a sneak preview of the type of promotional opportunities people can expect to see in the Recircle Awards between now and next year.
Okay, so tell me about the logo that are on the board behind you.
Okay, so you'll be very familiar with all these logos, but we have obviously we have Retreading Business logo, the global business-to-business journal for the Tyre Retreading Industry. They are the official media partner for the retreading industry of this event. Tyre Recycling, our global business-to-business journal for the tire recycling sector. They're the exclusive media partner for tire recycling for the Recircle Awards. We also have the Velbridge Media Services logo, it's our in-house media agency, and they are the official organisers of the Recircle Awards. And the final one is the Recircle Awards logo itself. Obviously, with these logos, we're expecting, these are just sort of example logos at the moment, but we'd like in the future, once we get collaborators on board buying tickets and partnerships and packages for the event, that their logos will be appearing on this board behind me in the future. And obviously, this is one of the various promotional opportunities that people can expect to benefit from for the Recircle Awards.
Okay, that sounds fantastic, Richard, and thanks for the explanation. And I'll certainly look forward to catching up with you on this subject as the project develops. Well, now it's time to move on to our second interview of the day with David Stevens, the Managing Director of TRIB, who joined us to discuss some of the key issues currently affecting the market in the United States.
Welcome back to the Retreadcast, and we are now joined by a second guest of the day, and one we hope that is going to be a regular contributor to the Retreadcast, will bring a different perspective on the retreading industry from the North American market. David Stevens has been the Managing Director of TRIB, the Tyre Retread and Repair Information Bureau, for 10 years. He travels around the world and participates in conference and trade fairs in markets far and wide. David, welcome to the Retreadcast. It's good to have you here. How are you doing?
Thanks, Richard. It's great to be here. Like everybody else around the world, just trying to survive the new normal of pandemic. And you mentioned traveling to all the various trade shows, and obviously that's been a big change for us. So with everything canceled for the time being, just adjusting to that new world that we live in.
Definitely. I suppose it's something we can't miss, the COVID-19 impact. Obviously there's so much going on in global business as it is, but it's something we need to start by talking about. So what is the COVID-19 impact on the US retreading market?
Yeah, I mean, I think like many places, there was an immediate, downturn in business for a lot of places, just depending upon the types of businesses they served. But also there was some places where there was an uptick in business, and sometimes that happened even within one company. So one example I use is, a trucking company that has an entire business of delivering frozen pizzas. Well, their frozen pizza delivery business to grocery stores is booming because people are buying a lot of those and still buying stuff from grocery stores. But the other half of their business, which was delivering to schools, is basically disappeared overnight. And there's a lot of instances in that where you have certain parts of the economy that are completely shut down, and certain parts of the economy that have increased, package delivery, for instance, people ordering online and getting deliveries. So the retreaders that service those markets have obviously seen an increase in business. I think in talking to many of our members around the U.S., it's a little bit up and down all over the place, but not as bad as some people initially expected. But I think we're also in the early phases of that. And you had, going back to April, there was a little bit of almost like panic buying toilet paper. Some people were panic buying tires, coming into the retreaders and saying, "Hey, I want to get 3 months supply of this," So I think May will be a pretty critical month for the retreading industry, and see what happens, see how the businesses look overall, if there's particular areas of, more decreases, or if there's some bright spots.
So bearing in mind that the market may well take a bit of a downturn due to coronavirus, how is TRIB supporting its members during this period?
Well, I think, a lot of what we've tried to do in the very early stages was just sharing information that we thought would be relevant and helpful to our members. And that's shifted as we've gone through the weeks. At first it was, okay, here's the information that we have about the pandemic and how you can keep your members safe. We've created a coronavirus resources page on our website, which many other associations and businesses have done, but hopefully it's a catch-all for a lot of the things that they need to safely operate their businesses. And then as the government moved into assistance phase, we started, trying to parse through the various programs, the emergency loan relief program, the PPP program here in the US, and providing resources to members, explaining to them how to apply as those programs changed, and how they successfully navigate all the things that they need to do to try and get money for their business. And now we're starting to shift into more of, well, what does it look like as we come out of this? So, how do you operate a business successfully going forward? What are some of the ideas around that? How do you make sure that your employees stay safe?
Interesting. I mean, obviously with talking here from a US perspective, and globally, when we look at like trade fairs and exhibitions, not just in the tire sector, we've seen all these events completely decimated, cancelled or postponed in other aspects. What impact do you think we will expect to see on trade fairs in the US? And these are trade fairs that obviously you guys will normally participate in.
Yeah, I mean, we had some very immediate, we have a normal schedule of trade shows that we go to and educational events that we participate in. The biggest first one that got canceled is the largest trucking show in the U.S. every year, the Mid-America Trucking Show in Louisville. And it had a couple of knock-on effects for us. I mean, we do a big educational campaign where we do our Spot the Retreads contest, where we have new and retreaded tires, and we get the thousands of participants to look at those and try and see if they can tell the difference, which the vast majority can't. We had also had, for the first time, an educational conference scheduled at the show itself, where we were going to bring manufacturers in, and have them talk about the retreading process, answer questions directly from the fleets themselves that are in attendance, and especially those owner-operators who might have a little more long-held misconceptions about retreading. And, on a sort of a professional level for TRIB as an organization, we have 2 of our annual board meetings during that show as well, and we were unable to go forward with that.
Retreaders around the world are supporting their employees and communities during the pandemic. What stories can you tell us about how US retreaders are responding to this challenge?
Yeah, I think that, the same thing, and they've sort of looked at it in, 3 main areas. First and foremost, how can they protect their employees? So a lot of those retreaders and retread manufacturers immediately looked at, okay, well, what protocols do we need to put in place in our plants, our warehouses, our retail environments for those that have it, to make sure that we protect our employees? And then next, how do we service our customers? So how do we make sure that, we manage our supply chain issues so that we don't impact the customers that are relying on our tires to keep products moving? And, fortunately, early on in the pandemic response, everything related to transportation was deemed essential in the U.S. So retreaders were able to stay open, still provide products for their customers, because obviously the truckers themselves are serving a real need that we need in the U.S. and around the world in terms of making sure products still flow throughout the supply chain. And, fortunately, I think, some of our members were a little bit worried about supply chain interruptions or struggles finding certain materials. But so far, we haven't really heard of that from them, and they've been able to stay in operation. Now, many of them have had to cut back a little bit based upon what they're seeing from a business perspective. But most of the folks that I talk to are still, very much operational. Maybe they've taken one day off or a shift down just to sort of manage the demand that's there. And so it's about, putting those protocols in place to keep everybody safe within the plant, delivering out what their customers need. And then lastly, figuring out what they can do for their community. And for a lot of them, it's, we just want to make sure that trucks keep moving. So, and, as you guys know, retreading is very geographic centric. So when those retreaders operate in a place in, central Pennsylvania, they're servicing customers around that diameter in central Pennsylvania. So they're making sure that people are getting their groceries, getting their deliveries, meeting the needs of their local customers. And then also it's them, they also give back to their community in a lot of ways, by, if they had, additional personal protection equipment, donating it to a local hospital that needed it. So eye protection that they've had, doing fundraising campaigns to try and raise money for their local charities, replacing, in-person events that they may have had in the past with online giving campaigns, looking at providing discounts for customers that either need it from a need-based perspective, or especially those first responders or healthcare workers, sort of recognizing the efforts that they're putting forward to help all of us, and then providing them with extra levels of service and discounts where they need it. So, retreading is very much a family-oriented industry and business, and community-minded, oriented business, and I think that has come through this challenge as well.
Yeah, I think that the point you make about focusing on local support, I think that'll be a very interesting trend to see how that develops, not just in the retreading industry, but from a consumer point of view in terms of food. I'm thinking a lot more myself about, instead of buying from a supermarket, buying from a fruit and veg store. And I'm sure there'll be many people considering whether to use big online retailers and look down a high street shop. So it'll be interesting to see if that transfers across to the retread industry.
Right.
But anyway, David, thank you for your time with this. It's been very illuminating to see what's going on in the US. TRIB is doing a fantastic job over there, and we're looking forward to catching up with you shortly for more perspectives on the retreading in North America.
Great. Well, thanks for the time. Thanks for having me. And I look forward to hopefully seeing you guys in person soon, and instead of over a video conferencing application.
Absolutely. We'll look forward to
Absolutely. Great to speak to Leandro and David on the show today. Two really interesting interviews, and two that I think all of our viewers will value taking a look at. Once again, I'm here with my father, publisher of Retreading Business, David Wilson. So David, what would you say were the main takeaways from those two interviews we conducted today?
Well, before I answer that, the first thing I should say is, for the purpose of the Retreadcast, it was necessary to edit the interviews down somewhat. So what we've seen are essentially edited highlights. So for those viewers who'd like to see a full interview, you can do so via our YouTube channel or via the links on the retreadingbusiness.com homepage. With regards to the interviews themselves, it was clear that Vipal in recent years have transitioned from an ambitious and growing company into a leading player globally, and that the company is attempting via multiple strategies to bring the Vipal brand to a position where it's universally viewed as an industry-leading brand. As far as the interview with David Stevens was concerned, it's clear that the impact of coronavirus could have had a much greater impact on the US market than it actually has. That's not to diminish the impact on individual businesses, of course, but the impression is that the US retailers mobilizing themselves effectively to counter the worst of the negative effects of the pandemic. I look forward to more updates from David in future editions of the Retreadcast.
Yeah, it was very interesting that what David said regarding the mobilization of US retreaders and how they've managed to protect themselves. Hopefully that type of story, where we find out the next few months, is commonplace across the world. But no, it's very interesting what David had to say there. But anyway, thank you for your insight, David, and thank you for interviewing Leandro and David. I'm participating in episode 2 of the Retreadcast. I'm sure this won't be the last one you're participating in. And thank you to all our viewers for tuning in and supporting it. We hope you've enjoyed the second edition of the show, and we'll be back in a few weeks with the next episode of the Retreadcast. Until then, stay safe.